Evening to all Europeans or Asians, and good morning to people tuning in from the Americas. Hope you're well. Sebastian here, co founder at Melting Spots. I'm excited to host this very first masterclass for our English audience, English speaking audience, around successful onboarding journeys. A great topic to start the new year. I hope you're all excited and pumped up. I actually wanted to start this webinar by extending my warmest New Year wishes on behalf of the entire Melting Spot crew. We hope you have a fantastic year, that you have a lot of successful client onboardings throughout 2024. Here's to a customer success focused year within your organizations, hoping that you will get a lot of traction among your organization, but also within your customer portfolio. And here's to expanding clients, happy customers. So happy New Year to you all. Feel free to drop in your hellos in the chat so we know where you're tuning in from. And I'll start with a quick recommendation. Please, I'd rather you tuned in to our Customer Success Nation group on Melting Spot, because we'll be sharing polls and some interactive content there. So if you're following us on LinkedIn, feel free to click the link that you should see on your screen to follow us on Melting Spot with a richer experience. If you can't take that step, that's fine. Follow us on LinkedIn as well. And I think I'm done with the usual intro speech. Thanks everyone for dropping in your hellos. That's nice. Thank you so much. And let's get right into it. We'll be spending half an hour together. We'll stop at 5:30 sharp, so everyone can get on with their busy schedules. We'll be covering a topic that is very dear to us at Melting Spot, and I'm sure it's something that is of the utmost importance for any customer success professional. We only get one chance to make a really good impression. That's true for customers as well. So let's talk about customer onboarding. I'm going to share my screen. Feel free to give me a thumb up in the chat if you can see my screen fine. And I see that we also have a survey that we wanted to start up with around your top priorities for 2024. There's a few options there. One, recruit more CSMs. You need more boots on the ground. So hit A. B, deploy new tools to scale my CSM. Do more with less. So not necessarily people on the ground, but new tools. C, improve my customer self-service. Let your customers self-educate, self-serve. Let them do their homework. Or D, rely on your support team, but try and reduce that number of support tickets. Feel free to share your top priority for 2024. And sorry, there's an F option. Oh, there's actually more, sorry. There's an E option as well. Create more educational content. So help your customers educate with more content, such as tutorials, masterclasses, e-learnings. And F, which is an absolute must-have, I assume, which is reduce your churn. So feel free to select the answers that are most suited to your current mindset. And we'll be sharing results in a few minutes. Sounds good. I'm just saying hi to Gwen in my team, who's posting these polls and surveys. Thanks, Gwen. Okay, let's get on to it. Let's start off with a definition of what onboarding is all about. So here's a mouthful. Sorry. Client onboarding is best defined as a series of steps specifically designed to guide first-time users into learning how to use a service product, with a view to help them build up enough knowledge to use the solution and materialize the corresponding value by themselves. So it's a pretty long definition, but I've highlighted, I think, the two main components of what makes a successful onboarding: guide first-time users and value. First-time users, I've highlighted that one because my view is that you should not restrict onboarding to FTUs, first-time users. First off, because you might want to keep educating your users throughout their customer journey. Every time, for example, you release a new feature or a new integration, you might want to onboard like long-lasting or old customers that have been using a product for a while and that still need onboarded. So that's one reason. And second, we often think of new customers, sort of new logos, but you might have old logos in your customer base, but new admins within your accounts or new users. So think about them as well as a segment that needs regular onboarding as well. And the second part, which I think is super important, is the time when you think onboarding should be complete, and it might be wherever you draw the line in the sand. Sorry, I think value is the key criteria here. Onboarding needs to go for as long as your customers can at least perceive value and ideally try and capture some of that value. Until then, consider that your users are not completely onboarded. So it's not just here's how my product works. It's actually here's what my product can add or my service can add to your business. Here's how I can meet your business outcomes. And ideally, try this and see for yourself. And at this point in time, you can consider that onboarding is complete. I'm sharing results from the early survey that we shared in the chat here. I see that Juan is definitely leaning towards reducing his churn, and that's fair enough. Well, actually, improving customer self-service comes top of the list. I like that one because it's pretty much saying, hey, do your homework and stop bothering me, Mr. Customer. The second one is decrease your churn, which obviously I think came first in terms of 2024 challenges in the study that we conducted. 2023 started to see the rise of like customer retention as opposed to the acquisition frenzy we've been through in the last few years. And I think this is just evidence of that. We've entered into retention territory. Acquiring new customer is hard, and so we're focusing a lot on retention. I'm not saying it's easy, but there's a lot more focus within senior leaders on that specific metric, retention. So cool. And then the TTV, TTA, we're going to touch more on that concept of time to value. But as I just said, your main objective should be to help your customers capture value as early as possible. That's your and that should be your number one priority when it comes to onboarding. And the reason for that is, according to a ChurnX study, SaaS users failing to activate within the first 10 days of signing up to a service, or 10 times more likely to churn in the first 12 months. That's almost that's a harsh statement, but let's face the truth. If you don't make a good job in the first 10 days, like it's almost too late. So you might as well get it right and focus on getting the moment your logo comes in, the moment you get the quote or the contract signed, that's where your work really, your onboarding work starts, and you shouldn't mess up in the first 10 days. I see there's quite a few questions coming through. And we have another survey that we just posted, another poll, sorry, that we posted in the chat. How long do you reckon the optimal duration for an effective client onboarding should be? I think there's no right or wrong answer there. Less than a week, 1 to 2 weeks, 2 to 4, or more than 4. We'll get to results in a moment. Why does onboarding matter? You're all very familiar with the ARRR framework: acquisition, revenues, referrals, retention. The idea is that a good onboarding is central to driving revenues. So specifically, like retaining customers, driving referrals, so acquiring new users through advocates within your customer base, and retaining, and then later on expanding. So yeah, it's essential to these three key business outcomes, and another reason why you should really care about your onboarding strategy. I think, sorry, I see Juan is asking a question around insights on onboarding tailored to low, middle, and high touch segmentation. We're going to touch on segmentation. I'm not necessarily a big fan of segmenting like low, digital touch, low touch, or high touch. Well, I'll get to that in a moment. But essentially, your segmentation obviously needs to capture some element of contract value, ACV, but also there needs to be some level of feedback loop as to how educated your customers are. And there's no point spending a lot of time educating a super high ACV customer that is pretty self-sufficient in terms of product usage and product education. You might as well focus on high ACV and low education, sort of poorly educated customers. So for that, you need to have a feedback loop of not only how they use your product, but how they consume your educational content. And that's actually probably more important than how they use your product. If they consume your educational content, it's very likely they'll start using your product as a consequence of that. So these are interesting metrics to bear in mind when it comes to segmentation. I'll touch on that now. High touch versus low touch, according to Forrester and Gartner, pretty much 70 to 75% of SaaS users expect a self-serving experience. So the idea is that whatever your segmentation, it needs to be accurate and super personalized to a number of criteria. Of course, ACV, we just mentioned it, but also like the industry, the size of the customer, the number of users or admins within your account. You need to work out whatever segmentation works well, and it needs to be pretty granular. There's definitely no one size fits all when it comes to customer success, and certainly not onboarding. You should not have the same onboarding strategy for all your customers. So think about a proper segmentation, draw the right line in the sand, and stick to it when it comes to onboarding. It's fine to have obviously a low touch strategy with a lot of digital CS customer success strategies, such as one-to-many onboarding sessions. These can be really good for like your very low touch customers. You might only have like a weekly onboarding session hosted live. We highly recommend that you don't use pre-recorded onboarding sessions. The reason behind this is that attention span drops dramatically after 3 to 5 minutes when you're watching an on-demand pre-recorded content. It's important that you maintain some level of spontaneity within your onboarding process, and keep these live sessions similar to what we're doing today, to keep your customers on their toes during the onboarding. And the other idea I wanted to touch on here is that, in my view, there's no such thing as a full high touch model. We hear a lot of prospects or customer success professionals objecting that they are a super high touch, they follow a super high touch model. They need to have one-on-one interactions. They need to do regular check-ins and like quarterly business reviews and so on, which is fine. But if you think about your interaction with customers, there's got to be a set of boxes that need to be ticked for all your high touch customers, and there is this sort of um, of standard interactions that you can digitalize and help your customers self-serve across these categories. So don't think about 100% high touch. I don't think there's such thing as 100% high touch customers. And think about those standard steps that could be offered to your customers regardless of the segmentation. Um, we have a question around, can you provide insights into the key metrics and indicators that community builders should track to measure the success of their onboarding efforts? I might save that one for the very end of the masterclass, if that's okay. We have a slide dedicated to the metrics you should follow, both product and content-focused metrics. So I'll get to that in a moment, if that's okay, Elias. Touching on like the usual best practices for a successful onboarding journey. Here I'm just checking that you can see the screen fine. I think there's a bit of a lag. Yeah, all good. Here I've mapped the usual touch points and experiences that should be part of your onboarding journey. The usual emails, the usual checklists inside your product for first-time users. Be sure to do this, and this. Guided tools within your products. They're all really good tools. Obviously, a proper knowledge center or a help desk where you can host articles and how-tos. But you shouldn't stop there. Don't stop at a very practical level of how to use this feature. Think about how you can add value beyond the purely practical steps of using your product. Think about, for example, sharing insights into your industry, your market, sharing benchmarks. These are all super valuable content that can really help onboard your customers as well. Like by proving you as an organization, as a customer success team, are able to add value in a number of shapes and forms to your customers. E-learning modules, they're really good if you want your customers to follow like precise steps. If you feel that an on-demand library simply doesn't do the trick, you want them to like take track 1, then track 2, track 3. These can be handy. Think about community as well, because that's the place where your customers can self-serve support. They might have early questions during onboarding, which can be answered more rapidly through the community, more efficiently than through support. Think about one-on-one check-ins as well for your higher touch customers, and think about celebrating steps on the customer onboarding journey. If your aim is to have 3 features activated within 1 week, like be sure to celebrate this milestone when your customer gets there. We're also sharing here a question around your favorite channels for communicating with your customers. So feel free to answer this this quick poll here, like either email or phone calls, Zoom meetings, any project management software, or collaboration tools like Slack, or more elaborate platform such as Meltixpot, Tribe, Circle, or an LMS. Feel free to and give your answer in the chat. Speaking of tools, you're probably super familiar with the usual suspects when it comes to like help desk, the Zendesk, the Zodesk of this world. Product tools are really good with Intercom. They're a bit pricey, but there are alternative solutions that you can find out there. App queues for in-app guidance in product. We're going to touch on how important it is to train your customers inside your product. Train for video, a video hub for training materials, Absorb or Learn Worlds for online courses, and Planhat or HubSpot for email and automations. I could spend a lot of time touching on whether it's useful to roll out a customer success platform early on. It really depends on the level of maturity of your CSM team. Unless you've really mapped all your processes, I think it's probably premature to roll out a CS platform. And most of the time, CRMs do the trick. But if you're pretty advanced in your journey and have proper CS processes mapped out, then rolling out a Planet or any other CS platform is probably a really good idea. But in my view, whatever tool you're using, you need to keep one very central thing in mind, which is avoiding what I call the Yap Syndrome. It's actually going a bit further than just that yet another platform syndrome. We are experiencing in the customer education space a trend for a growing number of tools being rolled out. SaaS tools are increasing. The average customer success professional uses 12 different tools. And we've done a really good job at embedding onboarding inside the product. So the R&D, the tech teams spend a lot of time like hosting product tools inside the product, checklist tutorials. They do a really good job at sort of bringing onboarding inside the customer experience. And when it comes to educating customers with webinars, forums, e-learning, articles, like we keep sending them to separate platforms, which is dreadful because you've done all that hard work of trying to keep your customer inside your environment. And then on the first occasion, like when you want to share content, you push them somewhere else, which is something you really need to avoid at all costs. And that's why we are. That's what I'm sharing here in terms of tips and tricks. Make sure you deploy in-app learning experiences. Don't focus so much on like the features your LMS should cover. In fact, you might not need an LMS. What you need might be the right video tutorial in your product. At Melting Spot, we've started rolling out the concept of widgets, where you can, inside your experience, like click on a widget and surface relevant content, be it a learning module or why not a discussion topic in your user forum. Could be a webinar, an upcoming webinar, to make sure that you drive webinar registrations and attendees by presenting and promoting your webinars inside your product. So they're all like tips to sort of help you bring education to your customers and not the other way around. Looking at the survey results here, I actually have another question from Ilias around Elevio. Elevio is an LMS that we came across that's interesting because they have in-product experiences similar to what we do at Melting Spot. So you might want to check that out. What frequency do you recommend for regular touch points during the customer journey? And how do you adjust this frequency based on each client's individual needs? That's a super valid question, Juan. Thank you so much. I think you need to stick to the various your checklist for activation. What boxes do you need to tick to get to activation, to like tick your time to activation box? So if it's like use feature A, use feature B, send email, you might consider like touch points inside your product, a few touch points outside as well. Sometimes the odd email also does the trick. So it's as frequently as needed to meet your objective in terms of activation. Results around channels used. That's interesting. Majority of respondents are using customer academy platforms or customer community platforms such as Melting Spot, Tribe, or Circle as their favorite communication channel. That has evolved a fair bit. When we started pulling CS pros on the topic, phone calls and emails were still topping the list. So it's interesting to see that these channels are losing momentum, which is fair enough because they're crowded. So so well done. It's probably a testament to the maturity of your customer success processes that you've started rolling out more elaborate communication channels, one-on-one discussions inside your product. So that's good to hear. Well done. Pausing here for a while to make sure everyone's got an opportunity to ask their questions in the chat if you want to. Before I touch on the next tip. So besides trying to bring as much content inside your product as possible, if you're to use a SaaS product for your education, our advice is to avoid rolling out a number of different platforms or SaaS. Typically, CS or customer education specialists are tempted to deploy. They're tempted to sort of take another of boxes like LMS, like forum, like webinars. Think central place for two reasons. One, on the user side, it really helps with like activation. Like if your content is centralized, it's a lot more likely to be consumed. So you want your content to be accessed, read, used. So that's a good reason. And second, for data analysis purposes, if your webinars are somewhere, if your user forum is somewhere else, if your LMS is somewhere else as well, if your courses are somewhere else, you'll never be able to centralize all that data easily. You keep shuffling CSV files around, doing exports and imports across the board. Whereas if you have that one central place, you'll be able to say, okay, Emma has registered to this webinar. She has been active in the forum. She hasn't read my document yet, so maybe I can just ping her and say, hey, remember on the onboarding checklist, there's this really cool article and tutorial video that we said you should check out. Check it out now. And so you're able to very quickly identify how educated they are in one central place. The other key piece of advice here is to try and personalize as much as possible the education experience. So if you think onboarding sessions, as we said earlier, have a number of different formats, number of different content for all these onboardings. So you might very well like segment your customer base by industry and have an onboarding session specific to each industry. Or customer cohorts, like new logos, or as we mentioned earlier, new users within existing accounts. You might want to greet them differently to new customers. So these are all ideas for segmenting and offering contextualized learning experiences. I promised we'd be touching on metrics. Now is the time. And that will be my last focus point for this masterclass. So bear with me for a few more minutes on that one. In terms of metrics to track, there's two metrics we like to follow at Melting Spot. One is as we mentioned, the TTA, time to activation, also called adoption or time to value, which I like more because it really speaks to what you really need to be able to demonstrate that your product has value to your customers and is able to meet your customers' business outcomes. And so it's up to you to define what that is. At Melting Spot, typically we want to tick a number of boxes, like has started hosting live sessions in his product, has set up a user forum. So we are mostly feature-based, but you could have other metrics you want to track. But whatever metrics, be sure that the tool that you're using is surfacing these metrics in a very straightforward way, so you don't have to juggle numbers around. Thanks, Gwen, for sharing a definition of time to activation. We've done a fair bit of research around what that means for SaaS customer success teams, and we've put together an interesting read on that topic. So feel free to check that out in the chat. The second metric, which we believe is super central, is an education score. So not so much an activation score, which you should follow. That's product data you need to track, like how what features have been activated, as I just mentioned, but also how educated your customers are, how much content they've consumed, to what degree have they attended the onboarding session, the new feature presentation that you delivered last week. These are metrics that you need to feed right back together with product activation metrics into your education strategy. And as I said earlier, you probably need to focus more on high ACV customers with a low education score than on high ACV customers that are highly educated. They are super engaged in the user forum, or they followed every single webinar that you have delivered. These are customers that can keep self-serving and that are at low risk of churn, but high ACV customers that have hardly ever consumed your educational content should be like a red flag all the way, and you should focus a lot on these customers. So be sure to have an education score as well. It can be very simple, like 1 point per content consumed, be it a webinar, an article, or a forum discussion. Assign them points, so you're able to then give them a score and feed that score back into your onboarding strategy. Like that customer still needs onboarding because they haven't reached the minimum education score. That's it for me. I hope you found this insightful. If you want to dive deeper into any of these topics, I'd be delighted to have a one-on-one conversation with you. So feel free to book me up. We're sharing a link to book some time with the Melting Spot team in the chat. And so yeah, we'll be super happy to chat one-on-one. I'm just waiting on my team to post this. Yeah, there we go. Here's the link to book us up for a 15-minute discussion if you feel like it. So thanks again for tuning in, and joining. It's been a pleasure having you on this webinar. We have a series of sessions coming up. Check out the program in the back in the live section of the CS Nation space. We have next week will be in a couple of weeks time we'll be presenting our customer education platform if you want to find out more about it. And then in a couple of months we'll be unveiling updated results of our global survey around the future of digital customer success. We pulled over 200 different customer success pros on their challenges, the tools they're using, the metrics they're following. So it's a super interesting benchmark. So I recommend you register. So simply go back to the home menu and hit lives and register to these lives. So you're sure not to miss out on these on these upcoming sessions. So thanks again for tuning in, and I'll speak to you in a few weeks' time. Bye-bye, and Happy New Year again.